I arrived in Manila on a bright Monday morning, suitcase rolling behind me and an overpacked bag of curiosity on my back. Coming from Los Angeles, I had ideas about what lunch looked like. Burgers, sandwiches, salads, maybe a smoothie if I was feeling fancy. I was naive. I was about to learn something important. In the Philippines, rice isn't just food. It's life. I had landed at my friend's apartment, a cozy place tucked between high-rise buildings and the chaotic rhythm of jeepneys honking outside. I was starving and, thinking like an American, I said, "Let's grab something quick for lunch. How about burgers?" She stared at me like I'd suggested we eat dirt. "Burgers?" She asked slowly. "For lunch, that's not really food." I laughed. I thought she was joking. But no, she was dead serious. I learned quickly that in her world, a meal without rice was incomplete. Later that day, we went to a local mall. There are restaurants everywhere, but she guided me past McDonald's and Starbucks, straight toward a carinderia, one of those small eateries that look like they barely belong on a street corner. And right there, steaming in aluminum trays, was mountains of rice. I was nervous. Where were the fries? The burger patties? The sandwiches? But then I tried it. A plate of rice with some adobo, a side of sautéed vegetables, a few slices of fried fish. The first bite was transformative. I understood immediately. The rice soaked up every flavor, made each morsel of meat or fish more satisfying, more comforting. I had entered rice nirvana. Over the next few days, I experimented with Filipino meals like a scientist with a delicious obsession. Breakfast was always the first revelation. I expected cereal or bagels, maybe toast with jam, but instead, I found myself staring at silog meals, a combination of sinangag garlic fried rice, itlog, fried egg, and some kind of meat, tapa longanisa or tocino depending on the day. The portion of rice was shocking to me. Americans are taught to watch our carbs, but here, rice was mandatory. Even if the egg or meat was small, the rice was generous. My friend explained, laughing, "Rice fills you up and makes everything else taste better. It's like the glue that holds your meal together." I decided to test the boundaries of this rice devotion. One afternoon, I invited a few locals to try a lunch I considered fancy, hamburgers with fries and a soda. I plated everything neatly and proudly handed out the trays. They looked at the burgers like I had brought alien technology. One of them poked at the bun, lifted it, examined it, and then shook her head slowly. "This isn't lunch," she said softly. I was shocked. "What do you mean?" I asked, already feeling defensive. She pointed at the empty spaces where rice should have been. "Lunch without rice is like nothing. You need rice." I tried to argue. "But there's protein. There's vegetables." She laughed gently. "It doesn't matter. Where's the rice?" I laughed, trying to mask my confusion, and that's when I realized something fascinating. Rice in the Philippines isn't just about hunger. It's comfort, culture, and identity all in one. Skipping rice is almost unimaginable. I tried skipping it once, just to test myself. I had a salad for lunch and felt strange, like something was missing. When I later met my friends for dinner, they were piling their plates high with rice and looked at me with mild suspicion when I served myself a small salad. I felt exposed. Somehow, without rice, I wasn't really part of the group. I started noticing the depth of rice devotion everywhere I went. In small towns, mothers would wake up early to cook rice in giant pots, not just for breakfast, but for the entire family's meals. Street vendors were selling lugaw, a comforting rice porridge, even at midday. Even snacks like sumang or bibingka featured rice prominently. It wasn't just food. It was tradition, threaded through every meal, every celebration, every family gathering. Then came the real test, traveling to a rural province in the north. I visited a barangay tucked between rolling hills and rice paddies that stretched endlessly like a green ocean. Here, rice wasn't just a staple. It was literally everywhere. Children had rice in their lunch boxes, adults carried rice to picnics, and even during festivals. Offerings included rice cakes and rice-based desserts. I was fascinated. I asked my guide, a cheerful man with a wide smile, why rice was everywhere. He shrugged. "It's who we are. You can survive without meat, but without rice. No way. During my stay, I was invited to a family dinner. They cooked lechon, adobo, pinakbet, and laid out a massive pile of white rice in the center of the table. Everyone served themselves quickly, but before anyone touched the meat or vegetables, they scooped rice into their plates. I, of course, followed along. The moment I mixed a bit of adobo with rice, my perspective shifted completely. I realized rice wasn't just filler, it enhanced flavors, balanced textures, and brought everyone together. Each bite of rice seemed to carry the history of the place, the effort of the farmers, and the comfort of tradition. Curious, I tried to quantify how ingrained rice really was. I asked locals what they would eat if all the rice in the Philippines suddenly disappeared. The reactions were dramatic. Impossible, one woman said, eyes wide. We'd starve. Or at least feel incomplete. Another man joked, without rice, people would fight in the streets. I laughed, but I could sense a deep truth. Meals without rice felt incomplete, almost wrong, in a way I couldn't fully explain. I even experimented with American-style meals in a Filipino context. Pancakes for breakfast? They were fine, but I felt guilty not pairing them with sticky rice. Sandwiches for lunch? They were eaten with polite bites, but the plates seemed emptier without rice. I tried introducing my American friends to Filipino breakfast and lunch meals, and they hesitated at first until they tried the sinangag with longanisa or tocino with garlic rice. Then, like me, they were hooked. It was hard to argue with comfort that tasted that good. One day, I found myself in a small coastal town. The fishermen had just returned with their catch, and the local market was buzzing. I bought grilled fish for lunch, thinking a simple meal would suffice. I sat down at a makeshift table, ready to eat, only to watch a mother scoop rice into her son's plate before adding any fish. I mimicked her hesitantly. The first bite? Magical. The second bite? I understood the obsession. The rice softened the saltiness of the fish, carried the flavors across my palate, and made every bite satisfying. By the third bite, I was a convert. Rice wasn't optional. Rice was necessary. As I continued my travels across Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, the pattern never changed. Street food, home-cooked meals, fiesta feasts, always rice. Even desserts often had rice in some form, bibingka, suman, or biko. I realized that rice wasn't just about calories or sustenance. It was cultural glue, a way of bringing people together, a way of saying, this is home. By the time I returned to Manila, I was fully adapted. I could no longer imagine a lunch without rice. I started craving it for breakfast. I laughed at my past self trying to survive on burgers and salads. And I started to share my newfound wisdom with other foreigners. If you want to experience the Philippines properly, I told them, never ever skip rice. They laughed, thinking I was exaggerating. But they hadn't tried tocino with garlic rice at sunrise yet. They hadn't been in a small provincial home where rice was at the center of every meal. They didn't know the truth. One evening, as I sat on a balcony overlooking the Manila skyline, spooning rice into my plate with some leftover adobo, I reflected on the journey. I had learned something simple but profound. Rice is more than food. It's tradition, comfort, connection, and identity. It's the taste of home for millions. And for someone like me, an American who once thought burgers were lunch, it was a revelation. I laughed to myself and took another bite. In the Philippines, rice isn't optional, it's essential. And honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way.